everyone. Welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on China's television. I'm Shonwa Kimbale in Abuja. Some good news on the Nigerian economy, only that we're expecting a practical impact of those report of the new figures. This is the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics today reports that Nigeria's gross domestic product, GDP, has grown by 3.46% in real terms in the third quarter of 2024 on a year-on-year basis. The growth, according to the NBS, represents a 3.19% increase from the one recorded in Q2 2024. Tonight, I've been having a conversation with Senator Enyinnaya Abaribe on several national issues. But before we get to talk with him, let's check out some of your political roundup stories.
The Speaker of the House of Representatives is calling for collaboration with the National Assembly to enact laws that will eliminate gender-based violence in Nigeria. The Speaker, along with other federal lawmakers, joined in the road walk in Abuja to commence the United Nations 16 days of activism against gender-based violence.
The National Assembly will do everything humanly possible to ensure that all forms of violence against women and girls are drastically reduced, if not completely eliminated, in the very near future.
The absence of Justice Ekpa of the Federal High Court Abuja has stalled a 50 billion naira suit filed by the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, against the federal government. The matter, which was fixed for today, could not proceed because Justice Ekpa was on official engagement. The judge was said to be sitting in another division of the court. There seemed to be no end in sight to the recent crisis in our court party, as some youth in the party have staged a protest at the headquarters in Abuja, asking for the immediate reversal of last week's expulsion of some of its members. The protesters, who gathered at the headquarters of the party in Abuja, held placards and sang solidarity songs condemning the alleged expulsion. The protesting party members warned other leaders of the party to wade in and prevent the party from sliding further into anarchy. The president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Mr. Afam Osigwe, has found that comments made by the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Mr. Ola Olukoyede, who alleged that Nigerian lawyers play a central role in enabling major financial frauds in the country. According to him, while the NB acknowledges that no profession is immune to ethical breaches or instances of misconduct, the broad profiling of lawyers as primary enablers of financial crimes was not only inaccurate but unjustified. He threatened to take legal action if it repeats itself. Taraba State Governor Agu Kefas has presented a budget estimate of 429.898 billion naira for the 2025 fiscal year at the Taraba Assembly. Tagged the budget of transformation, the appropriation bill, according to the governor, is ambitious yet achievable, aims to diversify the state's income stream, expand free education policies of the state government, create jobs via skills acquisition, and improve the infrastructure of the state. The budget also seeks to prioritize transformation to improve agriculture, renewable energy, mining, security architecture, tourism, and healthcare sector.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's get to it. Look, there are a lot of conversations about the Nigerian economy and how we need to move forward, as now there are now critical assessment of some of the indices to the Nigerian economy. The government is saying that they still need to borrow more, and there is an assessment of some of the indicators of the Nigerian budget of 2025. Some of the key officials of government today were at the National Assembly, where they were having some interactions with federal lawmakers. And the ministers are telling lawmakers that they will have to borrow productively and efficiently based on the approvals of the National Assembly, even though MDAs have surpassed their revenue target. This is some of what they are reporting today about the performance of some of the MDAs, as though the year has not come to an end just yet. The Minister of Finance and the Minister of Budget were all facing an interactive session at the Senate Joint Committee on Finance and National Planning and Economic Affairs on the 2025 to 2027 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper. Take a listen to some of what they thought. All right, we'll probably see how we can give you some soundbite, especially in relation to what Minister Wale Edun said about the need for Nigeria to borrow. He said productively and efficiently. What does that mean? We'll be getting some meaning into that on the program, but let's get to it. Tonight, we're joined by a man whose voice has resonated in the halls of the National Assembly over the years and perhaps beyond. He's transited from PDP to ABGA. He was one of those who perhaps you would have heard his voice in the midst of the PDP crisis, but now that seems to be in his past. He's standing here on another platform and flying another flag in the National Assembly, representing the South in the National Assembly. Senator Enyinnaya Abaribe, federal lawmaker representing that constituency, is live for us tonight. Thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Sean. Always a pleasure to be here.
Where have you been? It does look like forever that the nation has heard you speak on national issues.
Yeah, it's been a while. I decided to take a step back because I continued interjecting in national affairs, and it seemed like I was talking to the deaf. And I felt that sometimes you need to step back and take a measure of everything before you come back to intervene, let me just say, in issues. But I will say this. Sometime last week, I had a dinner with a bishop, an Anglican bishop. And incidentally, I'm not an Anglican, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. And the Anglican bishop told me, he said, listen, you have not been speaking. And I said, this is the reason. I just feel so frustrated that every time we're saying one thing and people are just doing something else. And he said, listen, it's a mistake for you to step back. You need to continue to interject, because whenever we hear you, whenever we see and whenever we see you make your submissions, we feel happy that at least some people are speaking. And so you shouldn't step back from national issues and all that. But I didn't just walk away. I've been doing my job as a legislator, and but I think it's time that we come out and actually confront the issues confronting Nigerians today.
And perhaps could it also be the weight of the political platform you represent? You seem to be very much vocal when you were in the PDP. And I mean, there are some of us who think that the opposition voice or voices of the opposition is drowning.
No, what happened was that when I was in the PDP in my last, from 2019, you remember, I was the minority leader, which meant that I was the face of the opposition. Right now, there's another minority leader from the PDP. I'm in the tiniest part of the opposition, let me just put it that way. So my interjections will naturally have to come from that side, and so you won't hear me so much.
How does it feel to play in a small pond? Because you played in a big water for a while, being the face, the voice of a major opposition party in Nigeria, a party that has run the affairs of this country for 16 years plus.
Well, let me just say that it's not so good that that major platform seems to have muted voice today and seem to have so much problems that they cannot get their act together. Everybody needs a very strong opposition. Otherwise, the government just has its way, and of course, they can be going in the wrong direction, and things are just going to go haywire. So I think that, well, we'll just have to continue to come together and work together. And I give my advice, quietly, of course, behind. Sometimes I raise my hand on the floor. And I tried so much today to go beyond just speaking publicly, I've been doing some mentoring, I've been doing lectures, I've been trying to get to the next generation. Because I think that those of us in this particular generation, I think we've lost it. I think that we just have to continue looking to guide the next generation in the proper direction.
Do you feel really worried about the PDP in the way things are going in that party? It doesn't look like the party, the shape and form it is right now. It looks deteriorating, right? Isn't it?
Well, that wasn't the party I was in.
It doesn't look like the party.
It doesn't look like the party I was in, but it's not my job to talk about it. I'm in APGA. I'm not in PDP.
Do you feel sorry for them right now?
I don't know what to feel about them. What I think is that they ought to realize their major role of being an opposition. You don't go to bed with APC today used to be opposition, and they never went to bed with the PDP, and they were able to get power. Trying to go to bed with APC, it just doesn't make sense. And that is why you see that Nigerians are lukewarm towards it as a party. And what Nigerians continue to look for is to say, where is that platform that we can see that is the major alternative to the party in power today? And I think Nigerians are still looking for that.
Let me get your view on the state of the economy. Today, a 3.46% GDP growth rate is being reported for Q3 of 2024 by the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. What sense does that give you?
It means nothing to me. Because listen, who feels it knows it. The man on the street, does he see that there is something called all that he sees is a continual rise in cost of living. All that he sees is bleak future. All that he sees is, he doesn't have power, he doesn't have transport, and so everything that the common person sees is just difficulties upon difficulty. So when you now come and tell him, there is a rise in this and that, it has to be translated into something that he can actually feel or see. And therefore, means absolutely nothing to the man on the street.
Do you feel also that maybe what the president said, that the initial pain would be like that of the pain of the childbirth, and at the end of the day, there was going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, and Nigerians should endure? Do you have a sense that, okay, maybe this is, if we're experiencing this growth rate, and the president has responded and received it with joy that we're experiencing a Q3 growth, GDP growth rate, do you feel maybe we could find our way out of the doldrums that we found ourselves economically speaking?
Well, I'm not seeing it. The point really is very simple. You want to go somewhere, is that not so? And you don't see where you're going. I'm sure they're going to beat their chest and say, we have a rise in Q3. What does that mean to me? The cost of power is still... In fact, today, some people were calling me from Abaribe, saying, you are chairman of power. We're not having power here for the past 2 weeks, this and that. And, what can I do? That is the point. What does the average man feel? If you don't translate it to what comes to the average person, whatever you're saying is simply just blowing in the wind, as they say.
So there is the indicators or the indices these agencies are reporting, but the practical aspect of it is not yet seen. Is that what you're saying?
We have not seen it. And what goes on today is just like the agencies are reporting that, we have reached our target. What target, really? Have you translated that target into the exchange rate of today. You understand? So if an exchange rate is 1,700 and so, and then you make 1,700. At the time, the exchange rate was 600, or then you make 1,700. Then you can see that you are actually making progress. So when they peddle all these figures, you just have to bring it down to what does it mean for me and you. And I'm not seeing fuel prices come down. I'm not seeing power prices come down. I'm not seeing the price of food items come down. I'm not seeing anything coming down. And what does the man on the street feel? I just continue to say that any policy, because the Constitution is very clear, it says that the welfare of the people is the primary purpose of government. That's all. And so if you don't translate it to the welfare of the people, if it's to the welfare of the man on top, then that does not amount to anything.
What do you imagine could be done? Because if we are reporting growth, GDP growth rate, if you are reporting a change in terms of don't let me call it academic differences in the growth, but Nigerians are still saying our lives have not changed dramatically based on what is being reported. Is there anything the government can do to better the lot of the Nigerian people?
I think, for me, the best thing you do at all times is always to show example. You understand? Mm-hmm. Yes. So if you don't show example personally, that you also feel the same way your all the people that you are in charge of feel, then you're not going to make any. If you still live large, if you still live with all manners of, as if nothing is going wrong, if you still continue to live a sumptuous lifestyle, you're not going to change the perception, because this whole thing is this. You don't have money, yet you're buying private jet, you're doing ABC, you're putting new things there, you're buying a new Cadillac. I mean, how would you tell me on the street that you have that empathy? And, someone, I think it was someone, just gave a joke last week. He said that we just approaching the end of the tunnel. We never knew that there was another tunnel that we're going to enter inside. So when they say, oh, there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel, we're not seeing it. That is the actual fact.
The president believes that the growth rate that has been reported today indicates that Nigeria is recovering from the reforms' unintended effects. And he says that his administration has not and will never forget his promise of a 1 trillion naira economy by 2030.
So I ask a simple question. What does a 1 trillion naira economy mean? A 1 trillion naira economy in which the exchange rate is at 2,000. What does that mean? It's not equal to the economy when the exchange rate was at 400. So, people, they just continue to bandy figures around Nigerians and think that the rest of us don't understand what they are doing.
So as far as you're concerned, those figures are meaningless. Well, if it doesn't translate to the quality of life.
If it does not change the life of the average person, how will all those trillion, what does it mean? And ask a simple question. During the time of President Jonathan, we had exchange rate at 400. They also did a 900 and something billion economy. If you use the exchange rate, you will see that it's actually double of what we have today with the exchange rate that we have today. Because what we're looking for is, where do you base all this? You base it on an unchangeable, which is dollar, for example. So ₦1 trillion, so what?
But those who...
Is it just the figure?
Those who are in charge of the economy, Senator, and they are coming to you,
yes,
you and your colleagues in the Senate, to
yes,
say, yes, agencies of government like FRS, customs, and the likes are experiencing rise in revenue. They're getting more money for the country, but yet we need to borrow more money. How do you and your colleagues views the stance of the handlers of the economy?
Well, let me just put it this way. The borrowing, okay, they will give you the facts and the figures. And I go back to where I started. I said that first, you need to look at yourself. What are you borrowing for? You understand? If you're borrowing to pay salaries and you're borrowing for consumption, then all that borrowing will amount to nothing. But if you're borrowing tied into specific projects that are going to have a multiplier effect, then there is nothing wrong with that borrowing. That is just the issue. Now, the borrowing that they brought the other day, I think it was 2.2 billion, was part of what we accepted and part of the 2024 budget. This borrowing is not for 2025. It's for 2024. Now we are at the end of 2024. That means that most of the projects, most of the things that had been in the 2024 had not been implemented. So they have to borrow to implement that. So we are going to have another cycle by the time we get into 2025 of more borrowing just to fill up the gaps that are going to come from here. And so I think that what we ought to do is first to ask ourselves the question, hey, where are we today? Where are we going? How do we get there? What are those things that we need to cut? What are those things that we need to look at? If you look at our budget today, you will still find a lot of fat, a lot of things that are totally unnecessary. And two, you must do something. The government goes around and now says we must be doing palliatives, we must give people money, we must do all that. But I just give you one small snippet. We were told to bring vulnerable people. So we are all, we relate with our people on the ground. And we went around and we sent people and said, let us get all those ones who are at that level. And then we got a list of names and we sent to them. You know what happened? 2,000 names. We now get, okay, let's get back feedback from those that they put their names there. What happened? Not up to 100. Not up to 100. Quote me. Just snippets of people there and here. And then we now ask question. So what happened to the rest of the money? What happened to all this? And they tell you, oh, it's been done. There's a list of names there. You don't know where it gone. So this whole thing about transferring money to people and all that, there is a whole level of sleaze that is inside there. And there is no way of tracking it. There's no way of knowing. Because when you come, they will show you a list of names and say, look at all these people who have paid. How did you pay them? Who got it? How did you get your feedback back? That's just the issue. And so the government needs to sit and ask proper questions to say, how do we get this to? What do people really need? How do they get to it? What do you do? I know that if you give somebody 50,000 today, He's not going to use it to, what is he going to do with it? So he's going to actually spend it, and tomorrow he's hungry again. How do we really get to the people who need help?
The government has a huge job on their hands, isn't it?
Very, very huge job, which needs for you to sit down and really be meticulous in how you would,
What sense do you have, Senator, about the leadership of this country? And maybe, just maybe, we could have a feeling that we are headed in the right direction under this administration. Do the activities of this government and the manner, their policies and policy directions, does it give you a sense that we are headed in a direction for good?
No. My sense is that, yes, we are here, okay, let us just do our best and just move on. If I come like I've come today, and I said, I think that we need to tweak it a little. Then they will start shouting, oh, you're against the government, oh, you're an opposition, so we don't expect anything better, this and that. That is exactly what we think. My sense, really, is that, just like a few other people have said, I do not think most of the policies of this government were well thought out. Usually, when you have a policy, you will know, okay, this is the time lag before it takes off. These are the things that may go wrong. These are the other areas, and this is how we course correct. Right now, what we have, a set of people who claim that they know everything, and so no course correction. Oh, we must do this. We must go from A to B, and if you don't like it, it's because you are not in power. That is my sense. My sense is really that, first, the age-old thing that is said, that you cut your coat according to your cloth, is what you first do. You don't live as if you are still in the 70s when we had surplus money and didn't know what to do with it.
Is that what is happening right now?
So tell me, why do we have to buy a new plane? Why do somebody even wake up and now say, oh, even the one that the vice president is using is not good, we need to buy another one? Why do we have, there are so many things.
But you and your colleagues approved all of that.
Well,
you were in the National Assembly when all of that was going on.
I am in the National Assembly, but I can tell you for a fact that nobody, quote me, nobody brought anything to the National Assembly to say, please approve this for purchase of a new plane.
So it was done without the approval of the National Assembly?
I'd say it was done without my knowledge. Nobody, I never saw any document, and I've always been in the National Assembly. Ask anyone. None. They just do things, and we just continue to say, okay, so that we do not rock the boat. Let it not be seen as if there's so much turmoil in government, because everybody wants to see that things happen. But ask them, was there a request? None.
And what does that mean?
What it means is that part of the job of the National Assembly, which is to be a check on the government, is not being efficiently carried out. That's what it means.
If government money is being spent without appropriation, and you are supposed to play an oversight over the executive, are you and your colleagues going to fold your arms without doing nothing?
There's a sinking fund in government budgets that is called, I want to remember the name now, where all manners of funding is in there but we appropriate that fund. They can take anything and they can spend from there. They can, if you have, let's say you have an emergency and you have to spend, you don't appropriate for it because you have a fund for it. So
Senator, I mean, are you worried that a lot of Nigerians perceive you and your colleagues as rubber stamp lawmakers? That you actually just look on and see things just being passed without a consent, without a proper check and balances that should be in place in the kind of democracy that we operate?
Well, what I'm worried about is not that perception. Usually there's always a perception that the National Assembly, what I'm worried about actually is that some of the time the public doesn't also appreciate the limitations that the National Assembly faces. That is just the thing. So I know that we're not as pugilistic as expected. But like I explained in some other station, we have gone through a curve. We started with a pugilistic approach during the time of Okadibo, Oyosanyim, and all that, until we got to the time of David Mark. And of course, the high point was during the time of Bukola Saraki. And then, from the time of Lawan, there was an attempt to say, why don't we, for the interest of the public, cooperate and do things in such a way that it will not be seen as so much antagonism between the two arms of government. And that has been what has flowed over into the Akpabio regime. But we also continue to tell the leadership of the National Assembly, and we make it very clear that in bending over backwards, you don't fall on the ground. You can bend over backwards to make things so that the Nigerian public is what should be the ultimate recipient of whatever you do, either as the executive or as the legislature.
Because, I mean, there are those who feel that you and your colleagues are in the pocket of the executive. There is really nothing that you people
I don't think we are in their pocket. I'm here and I criticize the government, and we do.
As a collective, this definition or this perception by some segment of the public feel that you and your colleagues, as an entity, as the National Assembly, that you are not being critical enough, and you are seeing our nation drifting. And it behoves on some of those of you who have the responsibility and the burden to represent the average Nigerian people that you are doing a lot of disservice. Are you worried, and are you feeling somewhat that you are not representing properly what the Constitution or what the spirit and the letter of the principle of separation of powers is asking you and your colleagues to do? The obligation.
Obviously,
the moral burden.
Obviously, I'm worried that the perception of the public is that way. But like I have told you, this is what has brought us to this point. And what has brought us to this point is the National Assembly feeling that we have fought so much, yet it has not yielded much to the public. And we try some cooperation. But we also, those of us who are inside the National Assembly, for when we have our private meetings, we also tell the leadership of our National Assembly that sometimes what you think is cooperation will be seen as the public as abject.
You know what a lot of people will say, that a lot of people looked on and saw a lot of things went bad under the 8 years of Buhari.
Yes.
And one could blame those of you who are in the National Assembly, because what did you do? What did you say? Now we are having a situation. You are an economics.
Let me put it this
senator.
way. Let me put it.
Things are going this way.
Let me put it this way, Seun. There's something that the Igbo say. The Igbo say that in your job, when something wrong is led by society to go through a year, it becomes a tradition. If you remember, under the Buhari regime, I was minority leader, and we shouted and shouted when things were drifting that way, and I was called all manners of names. And every time I came here to say that Buhari was going in the wrong direction and that people are going to follow him in that direction, and there was nothing we can do about it if they do not course correct. Their spokesmen at that time will come and say, oh, why will Abaribe talk here? After all, is he not a person who signed this thing for Nnamdi Kanu? He ought to be in jail. He ought not to be even speaking. That's what will happen. Now, what do we have? The nepotism of Buhari, which nobody followed, has now deepened under Tinubu. Now, nobody can say anything under President Tinubu because Buhari did it, and nobody said much. I was only the person shouting that this is where we're going, and where we're going is not correct. And everybody said, oh no. Now, what has happened, and which President Tinubu has now instituted, is that anybody who now becomes a president of Nigeria will say, let me bring my kinsmen. After all, this other one did it. And you see where we have degenerated to. And that is where everything has gone wrong.
Let's take a break, Senator. But when we come back, can you buy land easily in the Southeast? If you want to invest there, the arrest of Simon Ekpa, the Southeast security, and some other issues burdening on the state of the nation gets our attention after this break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Senator Enyinnaya Abaribe, Senator representing Abia South in the National Assembly, has been speaking with us on the program. Thank you so much, Senator. Let's get to your view on the arrest of Simon Ekpa in Finland. An event that sparked a mix of relief for some, skepticism for others. Do you believe that this development marks a turning point in addressing separatist agitation in the Southeast, or does it risk further complicating the situation?
I think it marks a turning point. I think it's something that is very, very welcome. Because what it does is that it will tell all those people at home who are purveyors of violence, who are being instigated by Simon Ekpa, to now know that he actually said, that he's just a content creator, that he's not, what do you call him now?
He's a prime minister. He called himself a prime minister.
Because he's a prime minister. We have always said that what he continues to try to direct from there is antithetical to what the Igbo stand for. And that it is totally wrong. And that what has happened is that a legitimate, I will say, quest by the IPOB seeking non-violent referendum was turned by all these, we say, kidnappers, criminals, and everything. And because they have found a key for the average Igbo, when you say Biafra, they feel that, you must be doing the right thing. And they're using it to cause mayhem back in. I mean, whatever they say they are doing in the Southeast is not supported by anybody in the Southeast. All you have is a band of criminals. Now, because they know that when they call themselves IPOB, then everybody will say, okay, maybe they are decent. And also, our security agencies also find it difficult to discern between a criminal and somebody who is saying he's doing agitation. And so every little thing that happened, they will now say, oh.
It appears that Simon Ekpa and some of his friends were feeling a vacuum left after the arrest of Nnamdi Kanu.
Well, what vacuum?
I mean,
Nnamdi Kanu was
Nnamdi Kanu engaged.
All of us have been going around trying to make sure that we deal with the matter to make him come out, which we continue to tell the federal government that he is the key. Reason is that everybody using his name and the name of IPOB to perpetrate violence and mayhem. And I will ask the same Simon Ekpa and their group. You want Biafra? Fine. Do you want Biafra, or do you get Biafra by killing the same Biafrans you want? How? How does murdering people, how does kidnapping people, how does going around and spreading mayhem, killing policemen, burning police stations down and all that help you? How?
I mean, calling Nigeria animal farm, calling Nigeria zoo, calling Nigeria all sort of, I'm painting a picture that this is a hell on earth, a country that is unlivable, and giving an impression from outside of the country as though anyone who is in government or anyone who represents any other thing other than IPOB is a villain. Now, and there are those who believe that, yes, the agitation and some of the intervention that Nnamdi Kanu represented, as soon as he got off the radar, of the scene, there are those who wanted to feel and lead that voice. But the question is that you have been agitating for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. Buhari government has passed. You were arrested as being a surety for Nnamdi Kanu. There are those, in fact, who said some of you were the promoters of the likes of Nnamdi Kanu, and what has led to some of the violence that we have seen in the South. The fundamental question is, how can this end, the agitation, or what can bring to a conclusive peace in the Southeast region?
How it will end is simple. Every one of them claims that it is because Nnamdi Kanu is incarcerated. That is why they are doing. They are not. That's not why. It will end when Nnamdi Kanu comes out, and then we now know who is a genuine agitator and who is a criminal.
How do you go about that?
How you go about that is that when Nnamdi Kanu comes out, then he can know his followers.
By extra legal or judicial means?
No. Nobody will now have a reason to say, oh, we are burning down this station, we are killing this policeman, we are killing our own people, nobody's doing, you are going to be doing sit at home because he is incarcerated.
Senator, what I'm asking is that, how would this happen? How will Nnamdi Kanu be released? Because if he's going to, that means the case before the courts are probably going to be jettisoned. Those are extrajudicial, extra legal means, or political means.
Nnamdi Kanu was extraordinarily rendition to Nigeria. The Supreme Court has even accepted that. And what we have been doing is, rather than continuing through the court process, let us take it outside of that. What has Nnamdi Kanu done that Igboho did not do? Think about it. Yet, Igboho is walking free today. Is it shouting or you're screaming? They've said all that. Even Igboho went the other day to London to say, oh, I'm going to submit a letter to the Prime Minister or to the King of England or whatever. Oh, we want to have our own nation. What has happened to him? you never had anything from the Nigerian government.
So Nnamdi Kanu has been treated unfairly. Is that what you mean?
Of course, and this is the issue now. The Southeast, 5 states, 50 ministers. A state like Ogun State has 4 ministers. The whole Southeast, just that 5. And so when people continue to look at this unequal treatment, you just give fuel to these people who continue to say they don't like us, they don't treat us well, they don't do all that. So, and I went and I've been talking to the powers that be. And I can also use this opportunity to talk to the powers that be. When President Tinubu became president, one of his first acts was to change the national anthem. In the national anthem, there is a line that says that we want to build a nation where no man is oppressed. So if you're from the Southeast and you see that you're just being given, okay, the Constitution says you must get one, and then you ask yourself, am I being oppressed or not? So I think that fairness, equity is the fundamental thing. And for every Igbo, note it, for every Igbo, a true born Igbo, there is something that is innate in us. In Igbo, it is said, Egbe bere, ugo bere, let the kite perch and let the eagle perch. Let no one disturb God. So we are known for fairness.
So the thing,
that's not the point.
You're talking as though the Southeast has been subdued.
No, there is a deliberate policy. Whether it is advertent or inadvertent, what people do when you come out of a war, when you have all this type of thing, when you want to have inclusiveness, you bend over backwards to make people feel that they are also part of this polity. And I say, and I repeat, you cannot have in your national anthem where you say, where no man is oppressed, and you continue to oppress a group of people. All you do
so the South is an oppressed people.
I'll tell you one thing, Seun, from Lagos to Ibadan, from Abuja to Kaduna is about 100 and something kilometers. Is that not so? Mm. From Onitsha to Enugu is 120 kilometers. 60 checkpoints. How can you have that? The whole of the Southeast is the most policed area in the world. From Owerri to Aba, which is just barely 36 or 37 kilometers, you will find 30 checkpoints. Every 1 kilometer you have a checkpoint.
Isn't it because of the unrest and some
How
of the
can
violence?
It be because of the unrest? Yeah, they are not unrest everywhere. You have unrest from here. So to Kaduna.
Are you saying there is a deliberate militarization
I say it's
of the
very
region?
Deliberate, and we have shouted, we have screamed, we have told the military, look, there's something that is going on in the Southeast today that is the worst that you can ever see. You're coming out in a transport vehicle. Nobody will check the transport vehicle. You come to an army checkpoint, they will just say, everybody come out and walk. Whether it's raining, whether the people are sick, whether it is, why do you have to do that? And this is in this country. It doesn't happen anywhere else.
How can this wrong be?
That is the point. The only way it can be corrected is that the people in authority, if the IG makes an instruction today and says, I want you to dismantle all these illegal checkpoints, because I call them illegal, they will, of course, do it. But then what happens is that, for Port Harcourt to Owerri, you continue going through checkpoints, so and at every checkpoint you pay.
Wouldn't you be allowing all these unknown gunmen to
That is the point. So why is it that these unknown gunmen still operate with all these checkpoints? You ask yourself that question.
There seems to be some a bigger picture about the perception of the Saudis, and I'll get to some of the liberalness that a lot of people perceive does not exist in the region. First and foremost, do you think that if Peter Obi had won the election, 2023 presidential election, he had become president, there could have been a change in all of this?
If Peter Obi had won, you probably would have seen a better Nigeria than what we are seeing today. Number one, he will not be as nepotistic as this government. He won't. It's not in him. That is just who we are. We feel for the other people.
So you think the Tinubu government is highly nepotistic?
I say so. I don't think so. I'm seeing it, and we see it every day. And I've just given you one example. How can Ogun State have 4 ministers?
Well, Tinubu is not from Ogun State.
That is the point. So why does he favor Ogun State? Look, Oyo State has only 1 minister. Ask yourself that. What is it that he's doing?
Is it the right time for the Igbos and the South, people of the Southeast extraction, to sit down and rethink their politics?
No, see what we're doing, Sean, because everybody continues to say that, why don't you think you're well? No, we have decided, and I'm part of those who have said that, let us go back to the Southeast and revamp the Southeast and make it more livable, better, more cohesive, and hold ourselves together. Because it's obvious that if we continue to look at whoever comes to be president, to look at us and do right, apart from Obasanjo and maybe Jonathan, I do not think that we have seen that same type of fairness.
Perhaps where I like to anchor is that there is also a perception that the Igbos are not liberal enough to accommodate.
It is, in fact, the Igbos are the most liberal people.
Unlike the fact that that those who feel that if you find in any town, if you do not find an Igbo man in a town, be worried because they are so commerce-centric that you find them virtually in every place in the country, in the far north, in the down south.
So why don't you say the right thing, which is the Igbos are the most Nigerianistic of all Nigerians, because we move everywhere, we live everywhere.
Until you want to buy land in Igbo land. That is the perception.
No, that perception is totally wrong. And I'll just give you just one small example. I come from a village called Ohoro. The next village to mine is Omuago, and it is exactly 5 kilometers from the city of Aba. We were doing a road past that place, and the road was depressed, so they needed somewhere to, the contractors were looking for land where they could do a sinkhole so that they could move water to that place. We looked around and we found one land. Do you know who owned that land? Adekunle Ganiu, a Yoruba man, inside a village in my hometown. Adekunle Ganiu. He has 2 houses there and has a 3rd plot. It was that plot that we wanted to buy to discharge water into, and he said no, that he's not selling it because that he's going to build another house there. He's already built 2 houses in my village. So when people say all this, nobody goes there, it's not true. Not true.
So the South is
you can come to the South and you can do everything. Yeah. We are liberal, and I mean the example. Never mind what they heard in Arise about T.O.S. Benson. What happened with T.O.S. Benson? What? He came to ask for land, and the people said, "You are our in-law, and our people have a saying: Ogo Uchionye, your in-law is your God." is your own person. We can't sell land to you because you're our brother. Rather, we donate land to you. They donated land to him.
All right.
And the story now ended that they didn't give him land. They didn't say that they donated that land.
All right.
It's like me. If I want land in my village where I live, it was donated to me by my...
All right, Senator. Thank you so much, Senator Enyinnaya Abaribe. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure having you tonight.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. I need to come buy a land in your village too.
If you come there, just like Ganiyu, you will get your own land.
All right, that's our show for tonight. Many thanks everyone for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. God bless Nigeria.
Thank you.